folks. How y'all doing? Okay, so it's now what day are we on? Day 7 of the Idea Explosion Challenge. This is my Monday morning at 5 a.m, bright and early as ever. And we are on to the style splurge. So I'm just going to start. Hey, Nat, or NAT. So, hey Maurice. So essentially, the point of the style splurge is to start thinking about, or not really thinking about. In fact, it's totally not thinking about. A lot of the splurging is about not thinking. You do the thinking beforehand. Oh, hang on a minute. Let's shut this down. Just move my comments over, which you can't see, but I can. Stop that. There we go. My Dropbox. Updating. Hey, Bart, Louis, ADT, Chris, Fred. Hello, Fred. And Lucas. So, Lucas, we had a little chat yesterday about your... I can't remember what it was. What was it? Anyway, something where you were struggling with splurging. Sorry, I speak to so many people that I actually forget what I say to who. So you will often hear me saying, I don't know whether I've said this before, but so how did it go yesterday as a result of what we talked about? Quambo, hello. Good to see you back. So yes, so the reason for the style splurge is to start thinking about style, start thinking about your own style, but thinking about it outside of the studio. And what I'm going to just do. Is everything okay? We're not peaking too much. I think it's okay. About thinking about your own style outside of the studio, because when you think about what a style actually is, really, the music, the artists, the musicians who have a very distinctive style, in a sense, what they have is a genre of one. I mean, they may well write in a genre, but I don't know whether you ever heard, for instance, Burial's House record. There was one side, I think it was one side Fortet, was it? And the other side Burial. I remember I kind of pre-ordered it and it was like, there was only going to be 200 or something. And I listened to the Burial. Was it Burial? Was it Fortet? I can't remember. Anyway, it was somebody and Burial on the other side. And I really, really remember it because the Burial record just sounded like Burial doing House. Right? It was just Burial at a different tempo, really. And that's the sign of an artist who has such a kind of specific sound that they can be described as having a genre of one. Now, that's obviously the most extreme kind of example of what I'm talking about. But really what a genre or a style is it's a collection of elements, that mean that people listen to it and think, okay, that's in a particular genre. Yeah, and if you're thinking about your own style, if you're not thinking about your own style, if you're thinking of writing generic, and I don't mean that in a what's the word? I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean literally generic music. So I'm going to write house music. What you're really doing is you are basing these elements that you're using based upon what somebody else has decided for you, in a sense. Yeah, so. When you want to think about your own style, you can still use some of those elements because every genre has multiple elements. And the thing is about, a category, which is what a genre or a style is. Yeah. So a category is it's not like a fixed thing. There are certain elements which are more archetypal, which make a more archetypal example of that category, but it's very kind of very fuzzy, essentially. So the less elements that you use that are kind of defining a genre, the more people start to go, well, that's not house anymore. Yeah, for instance. Yeah. But it is amazing how much you can play with this. Okay. So Nat's asking if I can reply to this. Of course I can reply to this. I'm talking to you all the time. You can ask as many questions as you like on these live streams. Part of the joy of live streaming is actually having a conversation, even though you're not speaking to me. I'm speaking to the comments. So how do we name splurges in order to keep things organized? I just name them random names. I'll show you my folder. There you go. I'm just naming them with a name, and then I usually have a key and the tempo as well. That's it. Some people, lots of people, name them with a number. So one of my masterminders, when we're talking about his music, which is one of the many things that we talk about, we're like, in our last call, it was like, so which one are we listening today? And he said, number 975. So we started talking about this track 975. Okay. And 1013 and things like that. Yes, this is how much music this man makes. So of course, because he's my coaching client. So what more would you expect? So it's kind of really up to you. Some people name it by the date. Whatever today's date is. What is today's date? For me, it's the 13th of April. So it's up to you. I still find the presets. Lucas, I still find the preset splurge frustrating emotionally, but I power through, trusting it's going to be beneficial. Okay. Could you? So that again, I know we've spoken about this already, Lucas. So when you say frustrating emotionally, so you find it frustrating, like what is it So if you weren't to power through it, what is it stopping you believing that? I mean, do you think that an idea that you've made, let me ask you a question, Lucas. Do you think that an idea that you've made that is bad has been a waste of time? So Shahan's saying, I was always told, oh dear, that always worries me when people say that. I was always told to give a meaningful name if I compose anything longer than 2 bars. Yeah, like, what I would, like kind of advice like that, I would be always questioning. Yeah, I'm not sure why, because there are actual benefits to not remembering. Yeah, there are big benefits to not remembering. I choose to give, and also I don't give meaningful names. I just give a name. I mean, I actually prefer non-meaningful names. So yeah, I'm not sure about that, Shah. I'm not sure about that advice. No matter who it's from, even if it was from Mozart, I could have a good argument with him about that. Not argument. Informed discussion. Dear Mozart, how about this for a different point of view, is what I would say. Wolfgang, how about this for a different point of view? And he'd probably go, but what about this, Mike? Oh no, he wouldn't, because there wouldn't have been a Vangelis-like synth. It would have been... Anyway, I'm being silly. Hello, Manuel. You're on early. You've been turning up late, which is fine. Probably the time I've been doing them. Right. Anyway, so my style splurge, I've chosen the Alberti bass, which is a type of part, and the like sounds. So let's start. Let me start. Stop that. Might be a bit slower than that, actually. Oh, it's not working. Hello, wrong one. It's the wrong equal sign. Okay, let's go to 76. Alright. I get overcome by emotions of frustration in the moment. Wow. So, right, here's a little exercise for you. Yeah, and I'm going to give you permission, although you don't need my permission to do anything. but Lucas, I'm going to give you permission to take a little break when you feel those emotions of yeah. So hang on a minute, Lucas. I didn't say anything. I asked you a question. I said, is a piece of music that you like, an idea that you make, your wasted time? And you said in reply, I know what you mean. I didn't mean anything. I was asking you a question. This is really, really important, right? So you've now assumed lots of things about what I was saying. Yeah, I'm not asking you questions at this stage of the conversation, trying to prove a point. I may well prove a point later on, but it's really important when somebody asks you a question not to assume you know what they're driving at. Really important that you do that, just generally in life. Yeah, because you're going to be assuming all kinds of things. It sounds to me, Lucas, like you might be somebody who's very in your head. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it sounds to me like that. You're assuming and you're creating all of these mental representations about stuff, that this means that, and he's thinking that, and he's and it's almost like you're mind reading. Yeah, and that can often be expressed in your life as kind of feeling lots of frustration and like going, like yeah. So it's kind of like you don't want to assume anything about anything. So an example might be, I don't know. It's almost like assuming that this is going to be a waste of time if it doesn't work right now, is an example of what I'm talking about. Yeah. So, but anyway, let's come back to the actual thing I was going to give you permission to do, right? So in your splurge, I know you're meant to be going as quickly as possible, but when you're overcome by those feelings of frustration, what I want you to do is just sit back, stop what you're doing, yeah, close your eyes, okay, and just focus on the feeling that you're saying you're having, the frustration feeling, okay? Just focus on it, yeah, and notice where it is in your body, where you're actually feeling it, right? What it feels like. Is it moving? Is it hot? Is it cold? Yeah. Does it have a color? I know these are weird questions, right? But essentially, by doing that, you'll be kind of getting in touch with that feeling. Because often, what happens with feelings like that is if you try and push them away, if you think they're wrong, yeah, they'll kind of they'll grow, yeah. And you want to sort of identify what they are, yeah, what they actually are. Because what you'll realize is that they're simply bodily sensations. And they may well not be feelings of frustration. They may be feelings of something else. And you're making an error about what they actually are. Thoughts and feelings don't necessarily mean anything. Yeah, they're just things that happen almost to you. And I include thoughts in that as well. Yeah, more than they are things that always mean something. They can be a signal, but so often we're actually incorrect about what they are, right? And also what they mean. Let me give you an example. If you do this exercise that I've just said, okay, with fear, for instance, say you're feeling scared of doing something, and you do this exercise, yeah, and you really, really get in touch with the actual feeling, yeah, and then you do the same thing. So let's say you're afraid, you're kind of procrastinating and putting off sending some music to a label. Let's make it a kind of fairly low fear thing, yeah, sending your music to a label, right, and you really kind of focus on that feeling, Yeah, or even you're afraid of finishing something. Yeah, and you really, really focus on that feeling, and you really notice it, and you write down the words of how it's showing up as a bodily sensation. Okay, and then at some other occasion, let's say that the lockdown stops at some point in the future, which it will do. Let's remember that, everybody. Yeah, and things start going back to normal, and you're going out for the first time to meet up with your friends actually in person. Yeah, and you're really excited. Okay, and if you were to remember to do this, and you do exactly the same thing, and you focus on the feeling itself, right, and you really, really just focus on the bodily sensations, and you were to write down the words that are describing your excitement, yeah, you would probably find that the fear and the excitement are very, very similar feelings, bodily sensations, extremely similar. In fact, if you'd practice this kind of thing enough, yeah, because this does take time, because the problem is when we don't practice this kind of awareness stuff, what happens is that we can't distinguish between the bodily sensation and our thoughts about the bodily sensation. Yeah, and what that means is that we see there being a massive difference between fear and excitement. Yeah, but when you do this and you practice this kind of thing, you will actually notice that in bodily sensation terms, they're exactly the same. Okay, fear and excitement are the same bodily sensation. Okay, and if you perceive a massive difference, that's probably because you're not practiced. Okay, so when you realize that, you think, well, hang on a minute, maybe I'm actually excited about the things I think I'm scared of. Ooh, wouldn't that be amazing? So yeah, you don't have to believe me about all of this, but what I would recommend, just as a first step, Lucas, yeah, is, this, all I can say is that this has been my experience. Yeah, all I can say is get in touch with what the actual sensations are. It will do two things. It will reduce the sensations because you'll be looking at it and it kind of dissipates. The other thing it will do is it will make you realize that a bodily sensation can't really stop you. Right now, let me think of a bodily sensation that I've got. Right. Well, I've got these ridiculous socks on. See them? Yeah. And there's a little bump on the big toe, right? Now that's a bodily sensation. That isn't stopping me making music, right? It's not stopping me finish the splurge, right? So how is that different from what you're calling frustration in your body? Interesting thought, isn't it? When you actually localize the bodily sensation itself, it's no different from that. Yeah? So yeah, so there's a little bit of for you. So hello, Samuel. And I hope you take the what I was saying the right way, Lucas. I'm trying to help. You haven't said anything bad. I'm just sometimes I can be quite, because I'm quite passionate about things. I can be quite forceful in the way that I say things. But all I'm ever doing is trying to help with what I'm saying. So and I think sometimes when people are kind of in a difficult place with their music, sometimes they need someone to come up to them and go, listen to this. Like that. So yeah. Anyway, Samuel. Hello, Samuel. Hello, Richard. Hello, yeah, Manuel. Today's my free day. Brilliant. Manuel's still working, which is great. Congratulations. Since you were talking about genres, how about a splurge for a specific genre with elements? Sample, synths, presets, rhythms, a song structure of another. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
Belief incoming. Belief incoming. Limiting belief incoming.
Boo! Everybody get down. Tin hands on. Right. How about a splurge for a specific genre with elements of another incompatible genre? Incompatible genre. Incompatible genre. Right. That is an assumption which wants to be seriously questioned. So sometimes I wonder where these things come from. But anyway, so the incompatible genre, you know that thing where you look back, where you self-report on what you've done in the past later in the day, and you just go, and you kind of feel a little bit embarrassed. This is often happening to me in these live streams. So anyway, like a ballad with sounds from Gabba Techno. Okay, so let me ask you, Dry, what makes it incompatible? What makes it incompatible? Okay, that's a good question. Now I'll come back to that. Right. What makes it incompatible? Some pretty realistic explosion sounds there. It's funny, in the Leap class, I was talking about the Leap program, and I do a coaching session every week. And it's an audio coaching session, and people ask me questions, and we do some exercises, and we got onto the subject of the kind of effect sounds like risers and things like that. And I was talking about how they can be a crutch in music. Yeah, so I try to compose the music without them. Yeah, like that. And then one of my masterminders went away and did a splurge using me going, and he made every single sound. In fact, it's on YouTube. I wish I had the link. What I'll do is I'll put the link in the description beneath this video. He's great, actually. He's called Tony, and he does loads of he kind of does live techno production. I've been working with him for years in the mastermind. Anyway, so he kind of does lots of splurges as well, and he made this whole tune out of me making one of my sound effects. So what is it that makes? In fact, let's just ask anyone, right? What is it that could make something incompatible with that genre? So I'm going to play this in while people are thinking about that. What is it? Oops. Yeah, he's going to post me the check when it becomes a massive worldwide hit. Not. Yeah, Tony from our group, Bart, that's right. What was I doing? Okay. Very simple chord progression there. Let's just give it a go. Right, let's go one time round. So what you will notice sometimes with me is that I do a lot of the same chord progressions, and that is both something that I am aware of and frustrated by, and also something that I'm not too worried about at the same time. So how I'm sorting that out in the kind of frustration, well, it's not really frustrated, it's more, here's something I need to do. So how I'm sorting that out is by doing some improvisation with some fake books, yeah. So like jazz standards and stuff. And it's not that I'm so much that I'm playing jazz, but I'm just kind of getting my fingers around, used to some other chord progressions. Yeah, so it's just basically about me improvising with some chord symbols in front of me and doing that. So that's one thing that I'm doing. But the reason I'm not too worried about it is that it's just like anything else. Just, with the preset splurge, for instance, none of those sounds need to be the actual sounds that you use. Yeah. Similarly, I use a lot of the same chord progressions at the start. Actually, what ends up happening with me, because I'm very kind of flexible about what happens later. Nothing is kind of fixed for me, which can have its own problems. But nothing's really too fixed. Often those things will change later, so I'm not too worried about doing the same things. And also, actually, the kind of harmonies that you use do tend to mean that your music sounds like you as well. So I'm not too worried about it as well. But I am progressively wanting to add to my chord library, or my fingers naturally do. But this descending thing is something I do all the time, as you may well have noticed. Okay, brilliant. Well, I apologize, therefore, Dry. So I use the term incompatible on purpose, right? Incompatible is assumed and incultured, thus indeed a limiting belief. Yeah. So affix twin occasionally used a few iconic rave sounds in new ways. Yeah. So great, excellent. So basically, my suggestion then, as you know that already, then is that do it. Like, I don't just really look for things like that. Yeah. And see what happens. Because really, the reason that something could be seen as being incompatible is that a genre, there are certain expectations that people have. So I always use the example of a table, right? So what defines the category of a table? Now, when I ask people this question, most often they say it has 4 legs, right? That's the first thing they say, usually. Not always, but usually, yeah? It has 4 legs and you put things on it. Now, this table that this computer is on does not have 4 legs. This doesn't have 4 legs because it's actually got a between these 2 legs, yeah? And this table doesn't have 4 legs, right? But most people would say that 4 legs is a relatively important part of a table being a table. But we still, I bet you everybody who's told me that a table has 4 legs wouldn't say, no, that's not a table. Yeah. So 2 legs, therefore, isn't incompatible with being a table, right? But it is a less, archetypal element, than a 4-legged table, than 4 legs, when people see, but so there is it's almost like it's a target. A category is a target, and the more elements that there are, that define that category, the closer to the center of the bullseye it is in terms of being that thing. And arguably, particularly with the kind of genres that have been around for years, if you have something that kind of is so archetypal that it's right in the center of the bullseye, that may well be in that genre described as being just very dull because you've heard it 5,000 times before. Okay, so an incompatible element. So it's really interesting because you've got basically 2 vectors through which you can play with this. It's the number of elements, that go into the perception of that category. So let's just say, and there aren't, but let's just say there are 10 elements that go into somebody thinking something is house music. And you have a piece of music that only has 9 of them, and the 10th one is not usually in house music. And then progressively you take away one house music element, and add other non-usual, 2 legs rather than 4 legs or whatever elements to that piece. Eventually, at some point, there would start to become some disagreement. Is this house music? I don't know. Some people will go, yes, it is, and some people will go, no, it isn't. Until we get to the final one. So you've got number of elements that people process. So that's one way of thinking about it. One vector that we can play with. Yeah. The second vector we can play with is how far removed the element is. So two legs on a table isn't so much it's not like oh, what? You got a two-leg table? Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Right, so it's not a table then. Right? What you could have is a table that you couldn't put things on. I think that would be a highly incompatible element with a table. It was like, right, so if you had, I mean, I don't know how you do that, but if you had a table where there was some kind of thing that no matter what you put on it, they fell off. In fact, I think I might have had tables like that in the past, although that could have been my inability to not be completely clumsy. But anyway, so if you had tables that you weren't able to put things on, that could be described as a very incompatible element. But if it really looked like a table, yeah, then would it still be a table? So I think, thinking of genres and styles like this in terms of kind of elements and how many of them are present which cause people, because arguably the closer you get to the center of the bullseye, it's just about the more percentage of people would perceive that thing as being house, yeah? And the further away you get from the bullseye, the more people will start to go, hang on a minute, what is this? Yeah, I mean, I always remember when I was DJing and people will come up to me and sometimes they come up to me and they go, what do you call this music? And I'd be like, yes, yeah, like I got them, because they've never heard the like of this before, yeah. So that's kind of how I saw it. So, okay. Hello, Juan. So, we now have this thing. So let's go to the defan. Hopefully it's working. I didn't actually test it beforehand. Hush now. Whoa. Yeah, that's probably not going to work, is it? Right, so we're no longer doing the preset splurge in this case, so... Let's turn that for a second. I wonder what would happen if... Okay, actually I'm not going to do that. Let's see if I can do a bit of a double time feel on this. Oh. I've obviously played this in a really terrible way. I have to do a bit of quantizing. Let's start with that. What's this one? stop faffing around a minute. Well, I wonder. Where are you? LFO. It doesn't really have a. Let's have a look. This maybe. Okay, I'm gonna go for that, I think. Okay. And then in a minute, so pitch. Alright. Yeah. I'll leave that off. Yeah. There we go. Cool. Let's start with that. Oh, turn that down first. Oop. Dip, 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 dip. No. Oh, it's starting in a different place. Oh, where was it? I really liked it where it was. Oh, I'll just do it like that. Right. I obviously didn't start the. So what it is this is a sequencer, right? And each of these red lights here are a step of the sequence, and because it's completely analog, and it basically it's being triggered by a signal from somewhere else, which means in order to start it at the right step, you have to advance it on, and then make it sync, to the right step. And I'd obviously had it on a different step, and I can't figure out what the original step was, which is why it's kind of been moving along. But it doesn't matter because I can do it later. I just want to check this is actually going to work at all. Okay, yeah. Let's try. Let's go from there. Right. So Lou's asking, how is the DFAM synced to the door? So let me just do this and I'll tell you in a second. Amazing. You're an amazing man, Mike Monday. You're brilliant. You're just an expert at this. When you do something and you don't record it. Oh God. Anyway, sorry for wasting your time, everybody. Let's do that again. Oh my goodness me. Anyway, at least I know what this thing can do. So hang on a minute. Hello? Is there anybody there? Where have you gone? Strange. Now what am I doing? I'm having one of those. Why is that not coming through? Right, there we go. All right. I don't know. Right. Third time lucky. So let me just start with how this is being synced with the DFAM is that I've got this. Why is this not? Hello? Oh my God. There you go. Here's my opportunity to explain it. Right. So how it's being synced. I've got this plugin here, right, which comes from ERM called Multiclock, and it's this machine here, yeah, which is sending type language, the robot language, yeah, to this, okay, and it's telling it that this is going at 76 BPM. So on the screen it says 76 BPM, and then on channel 1 here, how have I got it set up? I can't remember. There's different ways of doing it. Oh yeah, so there's an audio book, I think, going to here, from here into this hole here, which is advanced stroke clock. Okay, so that's telling it how fast it's going and when to start, I believe, although I'm not, super down with all this, yeah. So that's telling this when to start. So in order for this to actually run, I need to press that button, run stop, which is the thing I forgot to do just then, yeah. And if I wanted this to start at the first beat, the first step of this 8-step sequence, I would advance it on like that. See, I don't know if you can see that, but the lights are changing, yeah. So at the moment I've got it on that one because I think that was a good one. That kind of worked okay. So there you go. Right, let's go. And let's do it this time and actually record the blooming thing. All right. I do sync it in different ways. That's not the only way I sync it. I figured out a way of actually getting the DAW to sync with this using that, which is fun too. But just for the purposes of these splurges, it's just easier to do it this way. Okay, a little bit of that. So this is kind of sounding a little bit more like a baseline thing. Now let's find out what the particular latency setting I had on this template was. Let's see if I've got to mess around with it. That's okay. All right. Something in. Okay, that'll do. So, let me ask you guys, folks, a question. How many splurges have you done so far during this challenge? Let's see if we have a current winner. Hi, Christoph. What's going on? How many splurges have you done? That's the question. So far. Alright, let's just do the lazy thing. Gerald's done 7. Well done, Gerald. What? No, 7. How about anyone else? Maurice, 7. Don't be shy. Infotoxin, 10. Obviously, this all depends what day we're on as well. So, Mikhail, 12. Christoph, 6. Great. Chris, 47. Yeah, everyone click like. Everyone click like for Chris. So Francois has done 8. Lucas has done 34. Lucas, you're doing great. God, come on. It's like, I thought, like you were saying that you're feeling this overwhelming feelings of frustration. Like, blimey, mate. You seem to be doing pretty well there. Dear. Maybe that's a case of if it ain't broke. So that's fantastic. Samuel 27, great. Audio Diggers 15. Louis 32. Isn't it amazing? So one of the things I get particularly a lot of my kind of clients and masterminders to do. In fact, Claude Von Stroke's recent album that just came out, I coached him through that using the automatic music machine, and he started off with a 100 splurge challenge, because I get a lot of my clients to do that, and I kind of coach them through it. And one of the things that people really who do the 100 splurge challenge say, and this isn't the 100 splurge challenge, because I wouldn't recommend trying to do 100 splurges the first time you do it, right? But one of the things people say, and you try and do it in a very short space of time. Yeah, you don't listen to any of them until you've finished all 100 splurges. Yeah, so the quickest I've done it is in 9 days, but that's on like a couple of hours a day. So, yeah, when you do this kind of high quantity, it is a very, very interesting experience. Yeah, it's like a super enlightening experience. Remember, like this level of quantity, like 47 or 100 or that kind of thing. It's not the only thing that we always do. It's not right, but it is definitely a clarifier. I don't know who it was, and I've been trying to find out who it was that said, "In speed comes truth," and I presume they weren't talking about the illicit drug. I presume that they were talking about, I think it was a novelist or something, and they were talking about going really fast. Yeah, I mean, it's not the solution to everything, but it's a button you can push to find out lots of things. So, if you're going into the last few days of this challenge, and actually the last splurge is specifically for this, I would thoroughly recommend really taking the safety wheels off. Yeah, get on the top of that hill, push your bike. Take your safety wheels off. Get your bike, push it up to the top of the hill. Yeah, and then go, right, let's go, push off and see what happens. Yeah, you may well fall off and graze a few limbs. You probably won't end up in hospital. You'll probably be absolutely fine, and you will definitely learn something about yourself, about the process, about your equipment, about you really is the big thing, and also about your music, of course. Yeah, so for the last few days, just really see how fast you can go, yeah? Particularly on days 9 and 10. Okay. So, let's oh, that's right. G minor, isn't it, Mike? G minor, not G major. Just turn you down a bit, mate. Hush now. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to press record, because I'll get. Isn't it amazing? The brain is an amazing thing. I find consistently that when I press record, I just lose. I mean, this is something I've got to work on, so I'm going to practice. But when I press record, I seem to just get kind of all tight, and just don't. I'm not a kind of. Things aren't coming as easily. So what I've started doing now is not pressing record and just using MIDI capture for the MIDI parts, obviously. It doesn't really work, unfortunately, for the hardware if I'm playing something in, but that's something I think I'm going to have to work on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use MIDI capture instead. Okay. Start there. Okay. That's right. Louis says, brilliant. Whoever came up with the idea of making recorder lights red needs to face some consequences. It's brilliant. Absolutely. How dare they? You're recording. Come on. Do something good. Now. Alright. Otherwise, there'll be consequences. I'll have a bear. Oh dear. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do actually, of this one. This is something that I've been playing with actually, and generally in my quite a few of my tunes. Is where is it? I've lost it. Where are you? Oh no, there isn't a pan on here. Is it? I don't think it works. Well, does it? Maybe it does. That would be huge. That would be huge if it did. Does it work? I don't think it does. Oh, it does! Yay! Oh, and I've got my earphones on the wrong way around. Great. How very confusing. Anyway. You know what? I've just learned something about this thing. I didn't realise the pan worked on this, which is absolutely great. The only problem, obviously, is that it doesn't show the pan. Go away. There we go. On here, which might be a bit annoying. But anyway, just going to leave it like that. Let's just do a little bit of the old. So that's an interesting comment there from Dry. I was having a conversation with somebody, and it says, one problem you have if you can come up with 5 melodies per minute is choosing one. Okay. And I know it's kind of a light-hearted comment, so I'm getting it, but it's an interesting little thought experiment, right? What would you have to do differently for that not to be a problem? How would you think or view it differently for that not to be a problem? I get it. When you've got lots of choice, right, that becomes more of a problem, right? So just, can anyone think of what you'd have to do differently, or think of it differently, or approach it differently for 5 melodies a minute, choosing out of 5 melodies a minute not to be a problem? That was a terrible way of saying the question, but you know what I mean. There you go. There's a good example, Mikhail. Just choose the first one that works and move on. Keep the others for repeats. So again, coming back to the automatic music machine here. So here in my sketchbook, you can see how many ideas are, and the ones that are the ones that I might want to work on in the future are the bookmark ones, right? So that you can see the yellow ones, the yellow ones, right? And you know, when people first learn the automatic music machine, one of their first reactions is, "Oh, am I marking too many bookmarks? Oh God, I don't want to waste these ideas. I mean, how am I going to choose between them? And maybe I need to be, you know." And bear in mind, when they come into the leap and they start learning the automatic music machine, you know, they've maybe made like 10 ideas in the first week, and they start stressing out about losing ideas or finding the best one. And this is part of it, right? Because at some point, you are going to have, if you are a real musician and make lots of music and come up with lots of ideas, at some point you're going to have 5,000 good ideas to choose from. Yep. So this cannot be a problem. You're going to have to find a way for it not to be a problem. Does that make sense? So, yes, it would not be a problem if you accept that life has infinite opportunities of which only few can be realized. Ta-da! Brilliant. You've obviously thought about this. So, yeah, essentially, the frame to put around ideas, right? Here's my version of what Dry just said. And sorry for calling you Dry. I'm sure that's not your real name. It might be. Who knows? Take the approach, put the mental frame around your music that I have an infinite supply of ever better ideas in my future. I have an infinite supply. Write this and put it on your wall and chant it every single day. I have an infinite supply of ever better ideas in my future. Okay? Because when you put that frame around things, right? So what we're doing there is we're coming from a place of massive abundance. And do you know what? That is closer to reality than the scarcity version, which is, oh my God, this is a great idea. I'm never going to have a better idea than this. I better make it work. Yeah, that's what's going to happen in that situation. Yeah. So the thing to do is to go, it's okay. I have if you practice, which I'm assuming you're going to do, particularly after this splurge challenge, yeah, after this idea explosion challenge, yeah, if you practice, then that is the reality. You do have an infinite supply because you're going to be making them every day, yeah, and they are going to be ever better. Yes, not every single idea isn't going to be a better. It's not like a, the one idea is better than the next. It goes like this, yeah. Life is chaos, yeah. Reality is chaos, okay, but the gradual thing will be like this, yeah. So the worst ideas that you have will gradually get better, if you like, yeah. So you do literally have an infinite supply of ever better ideas in your future. So there you go. I have a lot of fun. I really enjoy these live streams. I'm going to continue them afterwards. I definitely am. Woo! Another one of you. I thought what I might do. How many days? What date is it? What date is it? 13th, isn't it? 13th of April. So the leap's starting on the 27th, so that means basically 2 weeks. So it's going to be just under 2 weeks. It's going to be about 10 days. So if I look in my automatic music machine here, and I'm not going to commit to this yet because I need to think about it first. So I've got these 3 tracks here and this one as well, actually, which has gone back into Discover. But basically, as soon as I've done some discovery on it, it will go back into done, really. I thought what I might do is in the interim between the end of this Idea Explosion Challenge and the start of the Leap class, what I might do is actually do a few more sessions, kind of live stream sessions of me finishing these things, because when it's in done, it's not finished. But I have decided this is the one that's in question, actually. I don't know what that's doing in done. I need to listen to it. Anyway, so yeah, but I'm sure that this one, and this one want to be released. So I thought I might actually just get those into release in the intervening periods and do some live streams around that. Now, I'm not sure what time of the day I can do because I've got various things at this time in the morning. Unfortunately, because of my time zone, 5 in the morning and 4 or 5 in the morning is the best for like the rest of the world. Sorry, when I say the rest of the world, I don't include Western Australia and Asia in this. Apologies, people who are there. But when I say the rest of the world, I mean most people who tend to be in my kind of ecosystem, if you like. So I've got various things that I need to do at that time in the morning. But I thought I might do some live streams, kind of finishing that sort of stuff. So. So, Dusty and Intriguing saying, this choosing thing is my number one issue. Okay. So, do you believe that you have an infinite supply of ever better ideas in your future? Very loud. Oh no, don't press record. Just press play. Just do that. Okay. Wow, Louis, you're committed. Great crashing and wrong note there. And let's see if I'm going to leave it in or not. I doubt it, but you never know. I do try sometimes to leave wrong notes in, because I find later on they make me think of things. Actually, I'm not even going to listen to it. I'm just going to leave it in. There you go. I think what I might do is leave that one there. So, final bit. Maybe just have that going like that. Don't think there's an enormous amount to this one, to be honest. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm not going to. I'm going to do one extra part. Come on. Come on, Michael. Let's just do a little extra part there. And I think I'm going to preset splurge this one. And I think I'm going to start with this. And whoosh, spin the wheel of fortune. Oh. Oh no. What have I done? Yeah, so Samuel, very good question, Samuel. I find in splurges, sometimes I want to jump on a delay or a reverb as part of a creative process. What's your take on that? So yeah, I haven't put in to this splurge challenge any, and in fact I don't in general when I'm sort of doing training, just because so many people are new to splurging, right? And I mean I know that delay and reverbs aren't really sound design exactly, but all of that kind of thing, yeah. So kind of modifying the sound. I tend not to put those into splurges because I don't know where people are at. And the thing is with that kind of thing is it's just by the nature of what it is, it can stop you splurging basically. It's harder to do. When I say it's harder to do, it's harder to splurge when you're doing things like that. It's just something about it which is harder to do. Okay. But bearing that in mind, that is not to say that you can't do like things with effects and sound design and that kind of thing in a splurgy way. I mean, it's possible. In fact, that's exactly what I would recommend. But I would again be careful just because it is harder to do. Yeah. So when I say be careful because you might end up not splurging. So what I would do, and I mean this is something that I've got on my docket of things to do, is to make a mission. Because another program that I do, it's not the Leap, it's called Mission Make Music Your Life, where I give people a single thing to do each week. Some of them are studio things, and some of them are out of studio things to kind of improve their music or improve their life, improve their music career. And I have got it on a thing to actually create a sound design, or something like you're talking about here, an effects thing type splurge, where I kind of think of some rules which mean that the dangers are avoided, the pitfalls are avoided, if you like. But in the absence of that, Samuel, what I would probably do is I would actually set it up so that's how I'm splurging, rather than just kind of putting it into my just a random splurge process. I would almost like create a rule, which would be something like, maybe I have 2 minutes to play with X effect. Yeah. So every time, so the splurge is actually, okay, I'm going to put a part in, and then the next thing that I do is, I don't know, play with a reverb or delay. And when that happens, I've got to look at the clock, or I've got to set a timer or something. Maybe not set a timer because that would be kind of a bit annoying every time. But have a countdown timer and stop after 2 minutes. Yeah. With that thing, some kind of rule like that, so you maintain the momentum, if you like. But definitely, playing with the kind of production side of things is absolutely what you can like. This is the point of learning the awareness that you're practicing. It's not really learning the awareness. Practicing the awareness of what you're doing in the moment. Am I just going? I mean, you saw me doing it on here with the defam, and you heard me saying, right, I'm going to stop faffing around now. It was like that was my third person observer, my Maharaja, if you like, going, come on, Michael, come on, get on with it, yeah. And sometimes I do relax that when I'm not splurging. Sometimes I do go into full experimentation mode and just go, do you know what? The clock is unimportant. Yeah. But the clock is unimportant. I'm going to just get my hands dirty and get into it and just have a play. And I'm not even going to worry about any result. I'm just going to be in the process. And just go, whoa, yeah. And I do that as well, but I do it intentionally. It's like I decide that I'm going to do that. When I'm generating ideas and kind of going forward. I'm going forward. It's almost like as long as you decide what you're going to do beforehand, and there's almost like an intention to it, rather than just kind of falling into this sort of endless tweak, then it's okay. Yeah. So. Yes. So. Yeah, no, absolutely. So if you want to me to continue doing these live streams, please hit the like button. I don't want to be begging here by any stretch of the imagination. But it's funny. No matter how kind of zen I am, one of the things that creates enormous amounts of motivation in me is when I can see that people are getting something from it, and you're interacting with me and asking me questions and responding. It just gives me a lot of excitement and joy, and that means that just to my terribly primate animal brain, that all I want is status. I want to win. I want everybody to love me. Just hit the like button, please. Oh, save me from myself. No, but so it makes it just makes it all worth it. That I can see that people are getting something from it, and then automatic, because all of us, not just me, I know for a fact that all of us have way too many things to do in our lives. We've got 5,000 million things, and one of the things that puts the priority of doing these kinds of things up the order is knowing that people are kind of enjoying it and getting value from it. So that's something. There you go. There's my little sales pitch. And also tell people about it. Tell other people about it. Yeah, say there's this guy and he's like got these silly voices and he's making terrible ideas. But occasionally he says something that has actually made a difference. All right, so I've done the preset thing, and this is a very bad sound for this. What am I going to do with this? Let's give it a go. Yeah, Mike Monday needs love too. I don't know whether you saw, Rich. I thought you had to go. I think you had to go, but I think... I named the splurge yesterday Mike Monday, so there you go. Infinite creep. What a terrible... I think I've known some people like that. Anyway. Do you ever get emails like that? Maybe you don't. I obviously get a lot of emails from all sorts of people, and sometimes you open your email and you start reading it, and the experience of reading it is a bit like this. Like, okay. Run away. So right, let's try it. Let's try a little bit of infinite creep. I don't know whether you've ever had that experience. If you do what I do, you'll soon. It happens. You get kind of when you don't quite know how to respond to someone because you're not quite sure what they're driving at. All you know is that you're really glad that you haven't met them in person. It very rarely happens, but it does happen. Okay. Try saying I only get emails about amazing stuff to buy. Yeah. All right. This is in what's the word? I've forgotten the word. Brain's gone. In honor. There we go. Not that hard a word. But anyway, in honor of those people who send me scary emails. Thank you. You wonderful people. Okay. Scary emails, yeah. Right, what I'm going to do, what this sounds like to me is a contrasting section, like a little kind of break section. So I don't think it's going to, for me, go over the top. So I'm going to have almost like a like that. Because I can't do that easily over here, and it's going to take too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to record something here. Okay, and then just for the purposes of Mike in the future, what would Mike like to hear in the future? What would future Mike like to hear? Coming back then. And then just come back in there. And then it should have that coming back so I can hear it coming back. See if that infinite creep sound is going to be anything. So the good thing about that sound, is it's highly contrasting. So that is something good about it. Now, I felt that because of its tonality, it was not doing anything here. So I was like, well, let's just put it like that. Okay, so I'm going to leave it. Actually, no, I'm not going to. I want to see if I can add something. I think what I'll do actually is I will I'll use Diva. I'll use Diva. I want to see if I can come up with a little melody. And I'm not going to do a preset thing here. I'm actually going to look for, well, when I say look for. Okay, so here's an example of using the preset splurge kind of awareness that you've gained to not go full preset splurge. Yeah. So basically, there you go. That's fine. I'll do it. So I'm just looking for a sound that works roughly. Yeah, it's like not looking for the ideal sound. I'm just looking for a kind of sound. Yeah. One of the things about the preset splurge that it kind of teaches you is that actually you don't need to find the perfect sound at this stage. You know, I've been watching the Dead Mouse masterclass, and you know, it's amazing how many kind of things that he says that I was nodding at. Oh, yeah, totally. And you know, it's like you don't need the right sound at the start. You just need a sound. You don't need to get things right. Like, in fact, there's very little point getting everything right about it at the start because you don't really know what it is. And you could well be just spinning your wheels and wasting time. In fact, sometimes I wonder if people are just procrastinating. You know, they're saying they're trying to make it sound good, but what they're actually doing, you know, I'm trying to make it as good as I possibly can. But what they're actually doing is trying to avoid, like unconsciously avoiding finishing it. Something to think about anyway. So... Okay, so what I do with this is how I come up with melodies. Yeah, is what I will usually do is just improvise something. Yeah, and by the way, you heard that wrong note multiple times there, and I'm still not changing it. This one. It's here. Well, I played a B flat. Sorry, B instead of a B flat. That, right. And every single time I've heard it, it's bugged me. Yeah, and I've been like, oh, but I'm leaving it. Why? Why might I be leaving it? What's the reason? Am I crazy? Is this sheer madness? Yeah? What do you think? The reason that I'm leaving it is because I don't know what ideas it's going to give me when I come back to it and listen to it. Because at the moment, one of the things that is causing me, I mean, apart from the fact that it is actually a wrong note. So instead of playing a B flat, I'm playing a B. Yeah, I just made a mistake. Yeah. So it's a really, really wrong note. Yeah. But one of the things that I'm feeling is embarrassment that I played that wrong note in public. Yeah, I know that. I'm aware of that. I can feel that I'm like, oh, I made a mistake and I did it in public. You know, I don't know whether you ever, when you were at school and maybe you had a canteen, and you did, I don't know whether they did this at your school, they did it at mine. I mean, I went to a really big school, there were like 1,500 people, students at the school, and you walked along with your tray, and there was always somebody, well not always, but often somebody like they would fall over or they would drop the tray, and then the whole place would go, yeah, and you'd be like, and the person would get up and they'd be like, oh no, really, really embarrassed. I did it a few times. So yeah, it's like those things that you just want the ground to swallow you up, right? So I'm feeling this embarrassment that I played this wrong note in public in front of people. Yeah. Now that is going to be affecting my perception in a big way, like in a huge, huge way. Okay. And it's not going to be it's going to be, if you like, clouding the future ideas I could have from that wrong note, that mistake, because all I can think about is the embarrassment. Like every time I've heard it when I've been playing, it's like instant, that social like right. However, when I listen to the audio file afterwards, yeah, so I'm going to export this, and when I listen to the audio file afterwards, I'm not going to have that same, I may well remember the experience of being embarrassed of playing that wrong note, yeah, and think, oh God, what will people think? Oh no, they're all going to hate me now. They'll remove their likes that they've all very kindly done. There's going to be some thumbs down. Please avoid the thumb down button. No. Yeah, and so they're gonna, yeah. So there may be some of that, but I'm not going to be feeling it so strongly. So that kind of cloudiness of judgment is going to be gone. And what may well happen, I'm not saying it will, but what may well happen is I'll be like, hang on a minute, that wrong note gives me a really good idea for maybe a different harmonic change, or that wrong note gives me a really good idea for maybe a little arrangement tweak I can do where it all cuts to the wrong note or something, or maybe it will give me something completely different. Yeah. So in other words, because I'm aware that there are many, many factors that are affecting my perception of this music in the moment that I'm making it, I'm leaving that wrong note in. By goodness. Okay. So yeah, and obviously in your cases, until you get to the point of live streaming your production sessions with with people watching, in your case, of course, you're not going to have that kind of social embarrassment. But if you struggle with mistakes, yeah, if you struggle with that, it is going to be a similar experience to the one I've been having, because in a way your audience is you, if you like. So that's what I have to say about that. Anyway, I was talking about melodies, wasn't I? So, what I usually do, is I just improvise something, and then when I come back to the tune, if I want to take it forward into the future, I will then usually use a little part of the melody and create a melody out of that. Occasionally I do just play the melody and it comes out right, but usually this won't be the final thing. Okay. Yes. No, there is a big difference. Yeah. So Rich is saying, I never noticed before the difference between listening direct from the door versus a WAV file. Yes, there is a difference. There's so much of a difference that you will notice lots of people arguing about it online. Right, what was it called again? Scary emails. And it was in D, definitely minor. No, G minor. What am I talking about? G minor. Which in other contexts could be described as D minor, actually. Anyway, so 76. That's it. I do have some other ideas as well about what I can do on these live streams, which are kind of even more interactive than the one, than this kind of thing. So stay tuned for that. Great. So David said, always late to the live session, don't get the full gist of Mike's comments, but look back and saw and decided to share that I'm doing it and it's working well for me. Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I would say probably most people watch the live vids later on. There is a real benefit to doing it, to being on live though, in that we can actually have a conversation. If you have any questions, or if you maybe say something that I'm like, oh, how about what do you mean by that? It's kind of it's a great. I mean, this is where live streaming really is a different thing to anything else. There isn't another thing like live streaming, because you can actually have, a back and forth. It's the most one-to-one experience, aside from actually being one-to-one, that there is in terms of kind of content that you can create. People think of live streaming as it's just like, I don't know, particularly musicians, it's just like performing. It's just like playing on stage, but in front of a webcam. You can see it when people do it. That's what they're thinking of it as, and it's not. It's something different to that. Or they think of it as a TV show, or a radio show. It's not. It's something different. And I think those who understand that difference between live streaming and other things are gonna kind of do the best out of it, if you like. So, no, it's definitely not as good as live. Yes. Plus, you get to name his tracks. Rich has now named 2 of my tracks. So, great. Putting DAW files into a playlist will be hard. Right. Anyway, I need to go, and I don't know whether I'm meant to be having a day off today or not. I haven't actually checked with my wife. But anyway, I'll find out. But I will be back tomorrow. So hang on, where are we? We're on day 7. Okay. So if you look at the schedule, which is on, it's on a playlist somewhere. If you look at the schedule, the days 7, 8 and 9, so I think this is day 7, so days 8 and 9 are at the same time. So tomorrow and the day after are at the same time as this one, but then days 10 and 11 are unfortunately at a different time. Unfortunately for probably a lot of the people who are on here, because it's my 2 p.m. and goodness knows what time that is, so Sydney at 2 p.m. unfortunately, that has to be the case because I have coaching groups and things like that. So just check that out and make sure you know that. But you can always catch up. I will leave the recordings up. But yeah, until hang on a minute. Another question, Mike. What daily or weekly routine should someone who's learning how to finish music with your program and how to be a successful artist have? Crikey, that's a big question. All right, let me just talk about the daily routine. I would put your creative work at the start of the day. Okay, so if you are not, if you're a massive night owl, then this would change. Yeah. So if you only kind of get going late at night, this would change. By kind of your chronotype, if you like, the way that you actually work. I'm not just talking about because you go to bed really late. I'm talking about what you actually are. So I think the first step in identifying an ideal routine is to know what chronotype you are. So I'll give you an example. So I DJ'd, where is it? Scary emails. There you go. So I DJ'd all over the world, for many years. Which is one of the reasons I'm feeling so oh god, my feelings are going out to all of those live musicians out there and DJs who are struggling. Because I was one of them. So I DJ'd all over the world for years, and so I kind of built up this belief that I was a night owl, because that's when I did my work. It was late at night, and it was only when I stopped DJing. It was only when in fact, I think it was even before I stopped DJing. It was when we had our first child. I actually realised that I was much better in the mornings, really, and it was just that my life had kind of forced upon this night owlness on me. So I reconfigured my life in various ways. One of them was to not go and do gigs and things like that, and as a result, I'm able to do my very best work, which is right for me. So the first step is to find out what your chronotype actually is, if you can. And if you're on lockdown, right, and you can't go out and you can't go to work, this is actually an ideal time to do that. Yeah. What time of the day are you actually best? Yeah. That time of the day I would thoroughly recommend is when you do your most creative work. Yeah. So idea generation, or even stuff later on in the process, because you're going to be much more focused. You're going to have many more resources to make those decisions. So do your music like when you are at your best. Yeah, for me, it's first thing in in the morning. Yeah. Another thing, absolutely essential. No matter what chronotype you are, do not make your first step of every day checking your phone, or logging on to your email, or looking at the news, or something like that. Do not do it. Yeah. I did go through a period recently when the tsunami of the COVID thing first hit, of checking the news at first thing in the morning, because I just wanted to know what I had to do. Yeah. So I did do that at that stage. I've stopped doing that now because I think we're at a more, it's like a new reality. Things are slightly more stable, changing less quickly. Yeah. So I am still checking the news more regularly than I did before, but just not first thing in the morning. But definitely avoid social media, avoid email, avoid basically the outside world for the start of your day, and get some stuff done. Or if you don't get some stuff done, just focus on self-care, on yourself, on meditation, exercise, eating something good, spending some time with your family, or whatever it is. But don't immediately go, information into my head, which is, it's literally just like pouring anxiety and fear and frustration and anger into your head. I know, the start of every day, I'm going to make sure that I feel really anxious, FOMO, scared, angry, annoyed, and all of those other feelings. Yeah, you wouldn't do that, would you? If I put it to you like that. Well, that's what people are doing. Yeah, I know. I'm going to make sure that all of the stuff that everybody else thinks is important is going to be like put into my head first thing every morning. It just doesn't make any sense at all. So what I would thoroughly recommend is just like pushing the outside world further down your day. Yeah, I mean, obviously this is different because now I'm live streaming, so I'm kind of, I guess it's less like that in this case for me. But, you know, aside from this, I definitely don't open my email before lunchtime. I don't do social media much at all at any point. But if I did, I would definitely not do it before kind of lunchtime. Yeah. Now that might be a bit extreme for some people, but I mean, trust me, it's going to make a massive difference, not only to your mental state, but also to the amount you get done and so many different things. And, you know, one of my mentors said, if you want to operate the matrix, you can't be in the matrix. Yeah. And that's kind of how I see the internet and all of that stuff. It's kind of a bit like, you know, the Matrix. Yeah. And I want to be able to, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's all bad. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that there's a lot that is incredibly harmful to our caveman brains, to our well-being, to how we interact with the people we love. And we want to be almost like sentinels on our minds, on how we're looking after ourselves. And, you know, in the modern world, what that means is really being intentional about when we're using these tools of communication. Yeah. And understanding the impact that these tools have on our minds. Yeah. Because really, our minds are so, you know, they kind of determine everything. So anyway, I'm going to step off my soapbox. So I think probably those are some overarching ideas for you there, Nat. So anyway, I will leave it at that. I've been going a long time now, haven't I? Nearly 2 hours. I just have a great time on these things, so that's why I keep on rabbiting on. But I'm going to leave it there now. I'm going to say keep splurging. As I said, take the training wheels off, get to the top of that hill, push off, and see how many splurges you can do in the next day. I will be back at the same time tomorrow. So until then, onwards and upwards.